Bernie was on this recent podcast, and he made some interesting comments. He was on the Flagrant podcast, in case folks are wondering. I want y'all to hear what Bernie Sanders said about identity politics. Identity politics. Listen to Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders.
And then you get to what we call identity politics.
Yeah.
That you're black, you're wonderful, you're tremendous, you're gay, you're the greatest human being on earth.
Yeah.
And rather than say, what do you stand for?
Exactly.
Gay, that's fine, who cares?
Yeah.
But what do you stand for?
Yeah.
Is every gay person brilliant and wonderful and great? No, of course not. Everybody's a human being.
Yeah.
So the issue is what you stand for, which gets you back to what we discussed earlier, class politics.
Class politics.
Class politics.
Class politics. Reminds me of a professor I had in college who I would always argue with. So there's that. And then Bernie talked about how Democrats are a threat to democracy. Listen to Senator Bernie Sanders.
Could we not also say if ostensibly there hasn't been a fair primary for the Democrats since 2008, are they not also a threat to democracy? Yes. We often hear.
Fair enough. That is, yeah, I'm not going to argue with that point. And that's why I'm proudly an independent.
Okay. So, actually, I'll let you start, Dr. Omékongo. What are your thoughts on these recent comments from Senator Bernie Sanders?
Hey, you remember Ashley Babbitt?
Yes.
So, for those of y'all who may not know, I know it's been talked about, Urban View. Ashley Babbitt was one of the insurrectionists who tried to assault the members of Congress during their insurrection on January 6th. She was shot and killed because one of the officers didn't know whether she was armed or not, but they had breached a door that they said don't go through, or this is going to happen. The Trump administration settled with her family yesterday for $5 million. They made this woman's family a millionaire for being an insurrectionist. My point is this. I am sick of this both sidesing of Democrats and Republicans, this BS argument that they're both the same threat. You're going to tell me that Democrats, as imperfect as the party is, we can have that conversation, we have it every day, that they are a threat to democracy when you literally have the Trump administration talking about getting rid of habeas corpus, getting rid of birthright citizenship, run down the list. This is getting rid of due process and actively doing it. They are already defying the Supreme Court. Ignoring is defying. All it is waiting for a constitutional crisis. The Democrats are nowhere near that in any way, shape, or form. And even in talking about the worst flaws of the Democrats, the idea that they are a quote-unquote threat to democracy, this is how we got where we are. This both sidesing, treat everybody the same. Bernie Sanders can be talking about being an independent. All he wants, whatever, when he caucuses with the Democrats, he might as well be one. It's problematic. And then to flip over to this identity politics, nonsense. We didn't create identity politics. Black people, LGBTQ people, white men created identity politics. Talk about them. And every time you get into a conversation with Bernie, he always wants to revert back to class, as if class is not part of identity as well, which is also something that was created in this country. So this idea about who you are, or we care about who you are individually, this goes across the stream. And this is also not a both sidesing things. Trump, the Republicans got into the House, the Senate took over the Supreme Court based on identity politics. They are the creators of it. They are the beneficiaries of it. And his inability to call a thing is one of the reasons why we're here right now.
So I want to unpack this about, I guess, Bernie insinuating that there hasn't been a fair Democratic primary, agreeing with the host. Said that we haven't had that since 2008. And I guess because in 2012, the incumbent, which happens pretty much all throughout history, when the incumbent runs, I mean, you could challenge the incumbent if you want to, but, the incumbent runs, they're running for another term. That's just kind of what happens, right? Yep. But I guess part of what Bernie was co-signing and what the other guy was saying is this whole thing that I guess Bernie feels like, or maybe his supporters feel like, the Democratic primary was stolen from him because of superdelegates. I'm assuming that's what they were talking about. So I just want to try and break down this thing for folks who may not remember. There might be some folks who disagree, but let me just be really, really clear. Mm-hmm. All right, so superdelegates are kind of like these party insiders who get a say at the convention. Yes, it sounds shady. It's like some political, BS situation, but let's really, really be clear. In 2016, we did have a primary. We did. People voted. Ballots were cast. States were won and lost. This wasn't some freaking Hunger Games Capitol rigging. It's rigged. It's rigged. It's rigged. It wasn't that. Mm-hmm. Did the DNC favor Hillary Clinton in 2016? Absolutely. It was messy. It was cliquey. Think of it like high school when the cool kids picked the prom queen. Absolutely, the DNC did favor her. They favored her in 2008 against Obama. Mm-hmm. They did favor her.
That's right.
It was Hillary Clinton, John Edwards, and then Obama. Mm-hmm. But let's not confuse that with Bernie winning and being robbed, because he didn't win.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Hillary had millions more votes, hundreds more delegates. Super delegates weren't even needed to push her over the edge. She walked in with the receipts.
There you go.
Also, he lost black voters. He lost older voters. He got mollywopped in southern states during the primaries, and that matters. He had momentum, but he didn't have a coalition. He didn't have the base. It wasn't robbery, Senator. It was a reality check. Mm-hmm. And as far as 2020, the DNC literally changed debate rules to let Mike Bloomberg stroll in with $1 billion ego. Yep. And Bernie still got a fair shot. He was the front runner for like an hour. But once again, remember, Joe Biden was dead in the water. The campaign was over.
Yeah.
Voters said they'll take Joe Biden. So, baby, the election wasn't stolen. It was just lost. Superdelegates are messy, and I believe they changed that rule thus far, but they weren't the grim reaper of Bernie's campaign. The voters were. Mm-hmm. So let's stop pretending a revolution got stolen when it was just the primary.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's that. And I want to also say Bernie's platform, great platform, excellent platform he had. I love this platform.
Sure.
We couldn't get him on this show. I know for other people it's hard to get him on. But he did go on Joe Madison's show, the late, great Joe Madison. Great platform. I love it. But he wasn't the innovator of that platform. You know what that platform was? Damn near verbatim? A man called Jesse Jackson in 1984.
Yes.
Jesse Jackson, 1988. It was almost identical. So I'm not saying Bernie don't have good ideas, but you didn't have the coalition.
Yeah.
And your platform wasn't groundbreaking, right? So there's that. That just kind of pisses me off. Mm-hmm. Then this idea, you say you're black, but play it again. It's like 20 seconds. I just want to hear it one more time. Make sure I got my mind right. Play it again. Yeah, identity politics. Let's play it one more time. Make sure I heard it right.
And then you get to what we call identity politics.
Yeah.
That you're black, you're wonderful, you're tremendous, you're gay, you're the greatest human being on earth.
Yeah, yeah.
And rather than say, what do you stand for?
Exactly.
You're gay, that's fine. Who cares?
Say,
what do you stand for?
Yeah.
Okay,
is every
take it
gay
down.
person brilliant and wonderful?
What this sounds like from Senator Sanders, it sounds like he's talking about some dominant victimhood. I guess, is he implying that white dudes are being pushed out? Is that what he's implying there?
Sounds like it.
The Democratic Party does not play identity politics. Kamala Harris barely talked about identity. She was not talking about race or gender or sexuality or they, them, or pronouns. Joe Biden was not talking about that. You might have some people in different roles in the party, in local roles or a role in the House, but the Democratic Party at large, they don't harp on identity politics. It is the Republican Party that does that.
Exactly.
Senator Sanders, welfare queen, Willie Horton ad, Haitian immigrants are eating cats and dogs. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It is the Republican Party that does that. Transgender, trans, they, them. And it's not just Trump. Reagan did it. Bush did it.
Mm-hmm.
His son did it. Nixon, Barry Goldwater.
That's right.
The Southern strategy is identity politics. Southern strategy 2.0. And shame on Bernie Sanders for either not knowing or not caring. And either one, it's egregious.
That's right.
Obama did not play into identity politics like that. Obama said in 2008 he didn't support reparations.
Mm-hmm.
He said he supported plans that would help black people, but he wasn't a supporter of reparations. Oh, but what are you talking about?
Right.
So he thinks that black folks and gay folks are getting a pass in the party just because they're black and gay. How dare you?
Yep.
As black folks and gay folks are under attack via DEI. I know people who have lost their job. I know people who've been impacted. You got federal workers, 18% are black, being fired. And you're talking about identity politics, Senator?
Mm-hmm.
You sound MAGA.
Yep.
Actually, you sound worse than MAGA. You sound Nixon.
Ooh.
You know what? You sound worse than Nixon. You sound Dixiecratish.
Wow. Yeah.
So why don't you come over to a black media outlet and talk that talk, and let's have a conversation?
Exactly.
Because I know you felt like, well, you know, I'll never forget, gosh, I have the quote somewhere in my book, The Grift. Sanders said something like, it's a shame that President Barack Obama didn't win more of the vote in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Remember when he said that?
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I think he only got like, I forgot the number, but I was surprised he got 1% of the vote in Mississippi.
Exactly.
But it's all about class. It's all about class. It's not all about class.
Mm-hmm.
Class matters, but there's an intersection with race. And that right there, what you heard, what I just said, what Dr. Omékongo just said, that is why he struggled so much with black voters. And there were some good folks on his team, but he struggled.
That's right.
There is a blind spot that he has.